Hey folks, it's Andrew from Gemba Red, and today we have a high-intensity handheld brick of a near-infrared 850 nanometer all near-infrared deep penetrating light therapy in a handheld metal enclosure that I can only describe as forged iron. Some of you might remember that a long time ago, before the market was flooded with commercial red light therapy products, that people were using these infrared security cameras for their near-infrared light therapy. And if you plan on using this on the skin, we're getting a whopping 120 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you might notice a pattern of contradictions that we often talk about the real science of photobiomodulation being low intensity, less than 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared, and minimal heating. But then we end up reviewing high intensity products like these infrared security cameras, a lot of LED flashlights and torches, the eBay lasers, and most of the panels from Alibaba and, that are being rebranded as all your favorite name brands. So I try to review affordable red light therapy, but they always end up being high intensity. That's because the high intensity products are actually cheap and abundantly available. And it's the expensive products that are actually medical grade because they understand the nuances of medical grade photobiomodulation, of using low intensity, getting adequate exposure times, and not delivering a ton of heat. And as always, we don't speculate based on our logic and our assumptions and biases. We've got real examples. Just look at the NovaThor light therapy bed, one of the most expensive and clinically studied beds, is only about 24 to 28 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Or the Erchronia laser, that's only about 7 milliwatt laser. Or the Neuronic helmet is only about 6 to 24 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Or the Soluma pad is only about 5 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And even Thor's handheld LED cluster device is only 44 milliwatts per centimeter squared on average. So we can see a real pattern that the expensive medical grade devices are quite low in intensity. And all the cheap devices, the ones that are being mass produced with no nuance and no science, those ones tend to be the high intensity because they're not really being produced to any medical standards. They're just doing it for a marketing gimmick, or they just weren't really designed for red light therapy at all. So you see, I'm just trying to help you not get ripped off by those cheap high intensity products. So yeah, you can watch me take a measurement here. And so when we measure right on the glass, we get very high numbers, usually above 100, usually like 120 to 160. So very high intensity. And so like I've been demonstrating on this channel for years, it's the cheap devices that are high intensity. So as usual, it's not much of a DIY. You just need to get the security camera light from Amazon. This one's under 30 bucks. The only additional accessory that would be essential would be like this on-off switch that will also be a link in the description, just so make it a lot easier to turn it on and off. And then it has this little light sensor right here that you want to cover up. You can just cover it up with some tape because it's designed to only turn on at night. So if you just cover up the sensor, that'll override the sensor, make sure it's on every time you turn it on. Otherwise, if you have bright ambient light, then it won't turn on because the sensor is still, detecting the light. So just cover it up with some tape. And so as an example, how you use it, you just use it right on the skin for about 1 minute per area. So I do like 1 minute here, then move it a little bit, 1 minute here, 1 minute here, and then you go around all the adjacent areas in addition to your problem area and try to get those. And so if it ever feels too hot, if you can't tolerate a full minute, then you kind of break it up into shorter time spans, 20 or 30 seconds, and then you keep going around, 20 or 30 seconds per area until you cumulatively get to that kind of 10-minute mark. And so what about the EMFs and the flicker? A lot of times that's what drives people away from getting cheaper products. But because it's got a DC adapter, there's practically no detectable flicker. So that's kind of what we expect from a decent DC adapter. That's not going to carry any of that flicker ripple currents. And so what about the EMFs? We can check the magnetic field EMFs. We know, like a lot of panels that have internal drivers and noisy fans, they also end up carrying a lot of that magnetic field with them. It's just the nature of how fans and drivers end up working. So we can see out here, this is kind of the ambient environment in my office. It's less than 1 milligauss. So we're going to look for a differential change. So we're kind of out here is a 0.5 milligauss is kind of the environmental EMF. And then as we bring it closer to device, we'll see if it increases. So we have it right on the panel here, and there is no significant increase. There's no significant magnetic field, so you should be very comfortable with using this in terms of the magnetic field. We can check the back. Check the back. A lot of times the back of panels, especially if they have fans, will be even higher. But again, it's not very significant Okay, so now we're going to measure the electric field, because as we know, there's two types of main alternating current fields that we can get. It's the magnetic field and the electric field, so you kind of measure those separately with these professional grade equipments that are designed to specifically measure each type of field with good accuracy. And we're using the grounded potential, so it's going to measure the difference between the ground and what the electrical field of the device is. And again, so we're going to note that the ambient is about 100, and if we bring the device closer, will it increase? And yes, it did. It increased quite a bit. It's up to 800 volts per meter. So, you know, people that are sensitive to electric field EMFs might want to steer clear from using the standard two-prong adapter that they include with this, because they might be concerned about EMFs. And of course, I'm not a charlatan that did this whole performance just to tell you have to buy low EMF products from me. I can show you how to hack it with a low EMF adapter. So here's a two-prong it came with on the left that was high EMF, and then this is a three-prong adapter that I got from Jamico. I'll put the link in the description. You can check out the model number here. It doesn't seem to have much of a brand name to it. So now the same test with the low EMF adapter. You see there's practically no change. It's like, you know, significantly lower. You know, before it was about 800 volts per meter, and now we see there's practically no change. We're not getting this high spike of electric field EMF when we bring the device closer to the EMF meter. So again, we hacked it with a cheap three-prong adapter. So as usual, I don't need to do a big song and dance to convince you. If you want low cost, high power, low EMF, red light therapy devices and not get price gouged with those cheap high intensity products that are high EMF anyway, you can get a real value from high intensity devices, you know, cheap on Amazon with these hacks. Or even if you don't want to use it therapeutically for photobiomodulation, you can use it for that ambient near infrared light, that light that we've lost from not using incandescent bulbs. This is a cheaper, you know, kind of higher powered way to get some near infrared back into your environment. You can just turn this on, let it run in your environment, get that low dose near infrared for more continuous usage. And I tested this one in particular. I let it run for a couple hours. It doesn't seem to overheat or have any problems with that. So seems like a good way if you want to add back in that ambient near infrared light and you don't know what to choose, you can get something like this. This has been Andrew from Gimba Red. Thanks for tuning in.